How's it going? Today I am at the Minesota Mine in Rockland, Michigan, and the sign right outside this dam, this lake here, on the highway says Minesota Mine was sunk on top of ancient pits, so the ancient mining pits. And the Minesota Mine is the same mine that Samuel O. Knapp worked for when he discovered what the ancient pits actually were. And this mine, the largest chunk of copper was mined out of here at 527 tons, and to this day it is still the largest chunk of native copper. Concrete big concrete slabs. This is all slag rock from the mine. It goes all the way up this bluff. They just this is what they pulled out of the mine after they blasted the rock. Took the copper out and shoved it up the door, basically out the door. Climbed up the bluff a bit and I found this old, looks like a foundation made out of the mine rock. They just kind of stacked it up here. Which steel rod right there, looks like a drilling bit maybe. No, it's not. There's a few bunch of old metal and tools laying around the place. Trying to see if I could find any the mine shafts. Made a purchase the other day. Figured I'd try it out a little bit. What I got. I'd like to thank Michael Collins, the Wandering Wolf, for the recommendation of the DJI brand drones. I'm gonna put it up and try to get a good view of the area. Hopefully the wind doesn't blow it around too much, but let's see what we can get. Well, unfortunately, because it is summertime, leaves are a bit thick. You can't see much past the canopy, so fall time's around the corner. If I have to come up here again. Nice. Well, it's an adit to shaft itself. There's a Pretty neat. Betting there's more up there, so I'm gonna keep on hiking. It's eerie how dark it gets as soon as you get into the woods. It's getting late in the afternoon anyways, but so this whole platform that I'm walking on here all the way through, this is all built, this is all the rock that they pulled out of the mine. Basically made their own plateaus, you could call them. And this part up here, this is all tailings, and then it goes up to where the actual rock itself is. Got this thing up here. Looks like it was definitely either adit ventilation shaft. Oh, I got the top pulled off. Gotta be careful here. Yeah, right down to pitch black. Like I said at the start, the sign said built on top of ancient miners' pits. I don't know if there's any that still exist, but if there was, I'd have to bet this might be one here. It's small. Goes down, and there's no, didn't look like there's any modern mining in this spot here, so it might have been untouched. I'm gonna put that as a maybe. Another pit up here. Once again, don't know. Ancient or more modern, the 1840s and 50s. There's a bunch of these pits all over the place up here, and it was known that there were ancient pits, so maybe. So what's pretty neat about this mine right here, in the 1840s, prospectors found one of the ancient mine pits, and there was a huge hemlock that had grown and fallen down inside this pit. And it was already rotting away, but they were able to get the age of the tree. They figured it was about 400 years old. So that means it grew up 400 years, fell down, started rotting before they got there. And when they started digging out the pit at the bottom, they found a 6-ton chunk of copper that the ancient miners had gotten down to, but it was too heavy to pull up. So the ancient miners did is they'd break off all the chunks of copper sticking on it with their hammers, their rock pounding hammers. And when they got all the crude sharp edges off that they could, they left the big chunk of ore there. And that discovery in the pit there is what started this mine here on this big bluff that I'm standing on. Big rock ridgeline runs all the way through. Another interesting fact about this mine is it was known to produce large chunks of copper, mass chunks of copper out of the mine. And the largest chunk they had found was 527 tons. And as far as from what I researched, it is still the record largest single chunk of copper pulled out of the ground. Well, it's starting to get a little dark here. So heading back to the truck, maybe I'll put the drone up over the pond down there, get some shots of the location around there. There's a few cool big chunks of concrete down there. So hopefully weather's nice tomorrow. I can go and do this again at a different location. There's a foundation for a house we're building here. whole bunch of them actually. There's another one over here, looks like. What's this? Hole in the ground. It's could have been a well, root cellar, I don't know. Keep walking through here. It looks like this is where the buildings and whatnot were. These could have been for the hoists. Tree. Thousands of years from now, I'm sure someone, if it's not known what this place is, people come back and think these were ancient temples for prayer and worship to whatever gods the natives of early 2000s or worshipped. Building over here. It's hard to see all these branches and trees, but hold on there, you ain't gonna be able to get out easily. Here's that building from below. And my way down and out. Between 1855 and 1862, the Minesota Mine here was the most productive copper mine in the United States. It had 10 shafts, the deepest was 1,200 feet. And they didn't just find copper in here, they found a lot of silver as well. Because up here in the UP, copper and silver kind of come hand in hand. The silver isn't as abundant as the copper by any means, but it definitely made some money for some of the mines around here. The Minesota Mine site is really, really big. It had 10 shafts, and as I said earlier, its deepest shaft was 1,200 feet. Unfortunately for me that day, it was getting later in the afternoon, and I had to pack it up before it got too dark. Where this mine is in Rockland, Michigan, right on the pretty much the bottom of the Keweenaw Peninsula. And not too far from there is where the Ontonagon boulder was found. Well, the Ontonagon boulder was more or less worshipped by the Ojibwe tribes in the area until Alexander Henry discovered it and kind of what started the copper boom in the area. I want to thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about these types of videos where I'm not just focusing on the ancient copper mining, talking about the more modern mines, copper mines that were started because of these ancient mines. I feel their history should go hand in hand with each other because one is the precursor to the other, and it formed the region that I live in. So it's part of the local history. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.